Hello. Okay, welcome back. And it's been a little while since we've updated on this thing. A few people have actually commented recently asking for updates because it's pretty interesting. K20 is now mounted and there's some work going on at the back. Tom's got pretty damn carried away as usual.
Sorry, it's his face there.
Sorry. Yeah, so Tom's got pretty carried away as usual. So there's a S13 subframe mounted in the back. The bed's cut out now. Found a small amount of rust, and we were actually like surprised how clean this thing was when it first came. But we found a small amount of rust when we took the wood up in the bed, and it just cut the full bed out, as you do.
That's a hand biter ass, that. Like. So gay.
That cat, the name of the cat.
Oh.
Oh, the white one. Oh, what's the best way?
We heard that cat meowing into a karaoke microphone. It's hilarious. He fell over that.
You missed the best bit.
I seen him going.
I think I pulled my back there. So you get
Thick boy.
Thick Tom.
One thick boy.
Yeah, you might as well explain it.
Quick as a lowdown, Tommy boy.
Low down. Yeah, so as Adam said, this bed did have wood over it originally. When I had the car up on the lift, I could see a few little rust bubbles and some panels that had been riveted over, so I was expecting the worst anyway. Lifted the wood up. Underneath that, someone had like screwed down corrugated steel on top. There's a previous repair by the looks of it. So I had to pull that up, and then underneath that it was pretty much shagging in most places. So first of all, I cut all the steel out off the top, and I was left with the original frame rails. At that point I thought, rather than hacking them up to make the subframe work, I might as well just start again. So I cut literally everything out of the bed. It was just a big open hole. The first members I put one on the front and one on the back, just some 25mm box section, and I've joined it up with some 20x50 box section front to back, and that set the width for the subframe. Then I've got a horizontal member here for the rear of the subframe, and then from there I had the subframe in position with the wheels on and took some measurements, and I drew up some plates to be laser cut. Did that in SolidWorks on the computer, and they're now all tacked in place. I've also narrowed the S13 subframe by, I think it was 215mm, to give it the same track as the original axle, and I've welded that back together, and I've finally got the diff mount made for it. The only thing it's missing at the moment is the toe arm mounts, which I forgot about, so I'll just put them in at some other point. I did measure before I cut them off, so I know where to put them back in.
Math.
Right, so brief recap if you've not seen any of this before, and just to cover what I have done since you've seen it. We've got the S13 Coil Overs, which bolt straight up to the 1200 strut tops. You just have to open the holes up. We've got the S13 knuckles, nothing's changed on them, and then we've got S13 lower arms. So the caster arm, it has not been touched. I've just added these mounts onto the body because this uses an eye rather than like a pillow bush on these stock ones. I've narrowed or shortened the S13 lower control arms by 50mm, and then everything just kind of been cut and welded to realign everything. Most importantly, this ball joint here, because in the stock's form it's pointing pretty much straight up, which left it at quite an unfavourable angle, so I've just fixed that. I have taken the stock Datsun front subframe, I've chopped it here, I've plated it, and I have raised the lower control arm mounting point by about an inch. This was to bring the geometry back in line, rather than having to go the route of lowered knuckles or drop knuckles. I've raised it here to give the lower control arm a downwards angle at ride height, which is what it's set at now. This way you get negative camber gain as the wheel moves up, which is what we want. So yeah, I've got the brake calipers for the front. I need to make mounts for them, but I'm going to do that later on because there's other stuff to be doing at the moment. I've mirrored that on the other side, so both sides are done now. The steering box is still in place. I think I'm going to stick with the steering box just to help with exhaust clearance, which I'll touch on in a minute. But I'll leave that to last minute as well. If I have to go rack and pinion, then I'll try and find something suitable. But because the car's so narrow, it's going to be extremely difficult to get a rack that's narrow enough to keep the steering and bump steering in check. So as for the engine mounts, everything's tacked in place at the moment. It's just cut out of 5mm steel, and I've used some Escort rear leaf spring bushes, which are a nice size. So the engine's not solid mounted, but it is. There's not really any play in them, but it might take a tiny bit of vibration out. And I've made the mounts to the engine on both sides. Same thing with the gearbox. I used the same Escort spring mounts, and I've basically just cut the brackets out, and these are all tacked in place to the body so far. This steel's a little bit flimsy for these, so I will be adding some extra strength to the back of this. But as the gearbox tunnel's all cut out and waiting to be shaped anyway, I'm going to do all that last. So I'll pull the engine out, plate everything up to strengthen it, and add the gearbox tunnel in. Right, so going on from earlier, drew these bits in CAD. These are just drew up and water jet cut. I wanted something that kind of looked a bit nicer than just throwing loads of box section together. These still need to be fully welded, and also going to put some box section in between to add some strength, and box section leading from this section all the way to the front of the car, just to add a stronger frame rail for in case it hits speed bumps. It's the same thing I did on my MX-5. I just replaced the frame rails with box section because it's stronger. I've also cut out the original wheel tubs and bent up some box section to use instead. I might have to modify the body a little bit because it goes down quite a bit there, so just to add a bit more wheel clearance. That's fine, I can do that later.
Vascular brake. Yeah, it works. Looks fine.
Oh. So my original plan was to use the S13 Coil Overs and modify them and make top hat mounts for them, but with the subframe being so high, it just looked a bit that, and some of these members are a little bit in the way. Ideally the Coil Over would have been coming up straight through there, which obviously isn't going to work anymore.
Members.
Member. My magnificent member.
You have a very small member.
Oh no. Anyway, so I bought these universal AVO coilovers and springs. These are 13-inch open, 9.5 closed. So my plan now is Pushrod Suspension. I'm going to try and use the original bottom mount on the knuckle for the pushrod itself, which will be coming up through this hole, and it'll probably sit somewhere in this sort of direction. And I'm either going to have both shocks mounted facing up from here with a rocker in between them, or I'm going to have these shocks in this direction. I've took plenty of measurements now, and I'm going to model that up in SolidWorks and see if I can figure something out, and then just get more bits laser cut or water jet cut, so it makes the assembly a little bit easier, take some of the guesswork out of it, and then hopefully that should look quite cool.
I was laughing at what you said.
And it's basically a Ferrari F50.
Yeah, it's basically a Ferrari, you know, so.
Like that, it was nothing.
Don't know.
Brush that.
Did you weld all this, Tom?
No, there was some that I can't weld very well.
I was going to say it was like that bad, but it's not like you.
Just everything's covered in under seal and a bit minging, and I get impatient and try and weld through it.
Hey.
Hey, shut the fuck up in there.
Hey, shut the fuck up. What you gonna do about it?
It's supposed to be closing out.
Right. Okay.
I'll just say something, you move your lips. Hang on. I can try this. Right, 3, 2, 1. Thanks for watching another video. You'll be soon back watching us again with this this amazing car. I look like a when I'm
So today's video really, obviously we didn't really show anything being done as such, but Tom's been really busy with the car, so we've now got the K20 mounted in the bay, the subframe's in place, and it's going to be nuts really. I've never ever seen anything like this with pushrod suspension and a K swap. I think it's pretty crazy. We've been a little bit silly, to be honest. It's been a bit of a childish video, and yeah, I'm not really sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
Well, that's actually
First
right.
start.